everyone, and welcome to Level Up Guitar, where you come to level up your playing. I'm Kalen, and today we're talking about 6 reasons your pinky sucks and how to fix it. First, I want to say if you're using your pinky at all, you should feel good about yourself because you're already ahead of so many other guitar players. The pinky is the weakest finger and also inherently the least accurate, which is why many guitarists tend to avoid using it. However, this creates a vicious cycle where the pinky falls even farther behind the other fingers. Don't fall into this trap. And even if you're using your pinky and feel pretty good about it, the 6 things we're going to talk about today are going to help you improve the strength and dexterity of your pinky even more. So let's get into it with 6 reasons your pinky sucks. And I like to call these the 3 F's and the 3 W's. Number 1, flat pinky. Flat pinky is when your pinky collapses at the second knuckle. This is bad for many reasons. Firstly, because it just generally inhibits dexterity. Secondly, it causes strain through the ulnar side of your hand and wrist. And finally, it will cause you to unintentionally mute strings when you're playing certain chords or lead parts that contain other fingers spreading behind the pinky at the same time you're using it. Perfect example of this is going from a first inversion major triad to a dominant 7th chord. If I do this with a collapsed pinky, I have a high likelihood of muting the B string, and we want all 3 notes in that voicing. So how do we work on this? How do we solve it? Let me show you this quick and simple exercise, and to start out, you're going to do it just from the high E string down through the D string and back up. As you're doing this, make sure that you have somewhere between a 45 and 90 degree angle at both the 2nd and 3rd knuckles. And notice how this first section of my finger, the one that comes off the first knuckle, remains close to parallel with the plane of the hand it's coming off of. If you pay attention to these details and do this exercise on a daily basis, I guarantee you will notice a huge difference in the usability of your pinky right away. Let's move on to number 2, flying pinky. Flying pinky is when your pinky flies out away from the fretboard anytime you're not using it. I see this in a large majority of beginners, but even many intermediate and advanced players. It's not only a problem in terms of playing efficiency and accuracy, but it can also cause an overuse or repetitive motion injury. A great exercise for working on this is going to be your combination exercises. This is when you take a certain combination of fingers, let's say 1, 3, 2, 4, and you play each string with that combination before moving on to the next one. Just like the previous exercise, I recommend just doing the D string through the high E string when starting out, unless you're super confident in your pinky technique. Because this exercise is so simple, it allows you to focus on other things while you do it, namely, keeping all of your fingers as close as possible to the strings, even when you're not using them. On top of that, once you get a handle on the flying pinky problem, you can use this exercise to focus on other things like maintaining a relaxed physical and mental state. Check in with your breathing, posture. You get the idea. The next one is number 3, falling pinky. I'll say a few things about this one because the exercises I already mentioned cover how to work on it. Falling pinky is when your pinky falls back behind the fretboard when you're not using it. This is more common than you can imagine, and there's no way you can possibly use your pinky efficiently if this is something that happens to you. One thing to watch out for if you do find yourself needing to work on this is to make sure you don't end up overcorrecting by holding your pinky out straight and flat when using your other fingers. We already talked about flat pinky in regards to something that happens when you're using it to fret a note, so I guess this is another kind of flat pinky. So don't hold your pinky straight and rigid like that. There is a happy medium where your pinky sits nicely next to your other fingers in front of the fretboard with good, comfortable angle in both knuckles. Moving on to the 3 W's with number 4, wide pinky. Wide pinky is when your pinky approaches from this outside angle. Usually this happens as a result of working with a very parallel type of approach to the fretboard. I actually encourage this angle for certain things, like for example when doing the combination exercises we talked about earlier. It's more common to see this in jazz or classical guitarists, but it should never be overemphasized with spreading the fingers apart like this. That creates a lot of tension in the hand and wrist, and that said, you should also practice with a more relaxed angle of approach from the other direction. This more relaxed hand position you typically see people using when they're playing more contemporary styles like blues, rock, psychedelic, or shoegaze to name a few. And the reason that you should work on both angles of approach is that it will balance out the muscles in your pinky and make you both stronger and more accurate regardless of which technique variant you happen to be using at the time. It's just like when you go to the gym, you work your arms by using both pulling and pushing exercises to keep everything in balance. The last two are very obvious, so I'm going to put them together: weak pinky and wishful pinky. Weak pinky is when your pinky simply isn't strong enough to execute the desired technique or idea. You'll often see this when people are trying to do lots of hammer-ons, pull-offs, or trills, and they just aren't quite pulling it off. No pun intended. I have some specific exercises I recommend for this available on my Patreon page, link in the description below, which, by the way, I really encourage you to visit, and if you like the content here, you can help support the channel with as little as $3 a month. Wishful pinky, the last one, we actually already talked about. Wishful pinky is when you don't actually use it. You wish you could, but it just seems impossible to make it work the way you want it to. I hope after watching this that anybody suffering from wishful pinky can move forward and work towards having a fully functional 4-finger approach to the instrument. It takes a little bit of dedication and attention to detail, but the first step is to just start using it, keeping in mind the things we talked about today. So that's it. 6 reasons your pinky sucks and how to fix it. And stay tuned after the credits for some outtakes on basic hand anatomy about which knuckle is which. And if you have any questions or suggestions, leave a comment. And I hope you like and subscribe for more tips, tricks, and secrets from Level Up Guitar. In case you don't know which knuckle is the second, I'll use my pointer finger here to demonstrate just because it's easier. The first knuckle is the one at the base of the finger where it attaches to the rest of the hand. So this would be an example of motion at the first knuckle. The second knuckle is the next one out from there, so motion at the second knuckle would look like this. And the third knuckle, I'll demonstrate this by moving it with my other hand because it's pretty difficult to only bend this knuckle using the muscles in your finger. Why is it important to know which knuckle is which? I don't know, maybe because you're a guitarist, your hands are pretty important, and you should know a little bit about them.